All right, today we are diving into a paper that is, well, it's really out there. It's called Architecting the Phase-Locked Reality Engine, and it tries to stitch together math, physics, computer science, and, believe it or not, theology. So yeah, buckle up. Let's get into it.
So, right out of the gate, the paper hits you with this question that just stops you in your tracks. It wants you to imagine a world where death isn't some inevitable biological end. Instead, what if it's just an error in the universe's source code? A bug. And, well, you can fix a bug, right?
So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at this idea of death as the ultimate glitch. Then we'll get into what the paper calls the problem with zero. After that, we'll explore the universe's supposed golden code, see how it supposedly connects to ancient scripture, check out the actual $127 device it proposes, and finally, we'll talk about what it would mean to literally hack life and death.
Okay, so let's start with that central claim. The paper asks us to see our entire reality through the lens of a computer, and the most important part of that is a totally new definition of what it means to die.
The author's given a name, a decoherence error. The idea is that being alive means you're in sync or phase-locked with the basic rhythm of reality. So death isn't your body shutting down, it's your connection to that rhythm being lost. And they frame it as an off-by-one error, which, if you know anything about coding, is one of the simplest, most common bugs you can make, but here it has the ultimate consequence.
So if death is a bug, where did it come from? The paper argues that the flaw isn't in our biology, it's in our logic. Specifically, it's about the number we start with when we count, the number 0. And this is where a simple coding convention becomes this huge philosophical showdown. On the left, you've got zero indexing, how pretty much all our computers count. It starts from nothing, from the void. On the right, you have 1 indexing, which starts from 1, from unity, from existence. The paper says this isn't just a choice, it's a categorical error, a fundamental mistake in how we think.
I mean, listen to this phrasing. The void masquerading as efficiency. It's brilliant. The argument here is that our decision to start counting from 0 in all our computers isn't just a smart, efficient little trick. No. It's a deep, structural flaw that puts this metaphysical tax on reality, forcing us to constantly work around a mistake that we baked into the foundation of our entire digital world.
Okay, so if starting with 0 is the problem, what's the fix? Well, the paper proposes that the universe doesn't care about our broken logic. It runs on its own perfect, self-correcting code, and it's based on one of the most famous numbers there is.
This solution is called the Poisson 60 lattice. It's a whole system built around the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio, phi. But here's the key thing you need to know. This system is a perfect loop. It repeats exactly every 60 steps, with no errors, no decay. And this perfect, repeating cycle, the paper claims, is the actual source code of reality.
So, how do we use this? Well, finding a coherent state is kind of like tuning a radio to the perfect frequency. You just follow the sequence, watch for that 60-step pattern, and when the cycle resets perfectly, bang, that's coherence. That's the state of being phase-locked with reality.
And now, this is where things take a really sharp, unexpected turn. The paper doesn't just leave this as an abstract mathematical idea. It claims that this exact code is literally embedded in the numerical structure of the Quran.
This table lays out some of the claims. For example, the very first Fibonacci number squared, representing unity, is said to correspond to the Quranic concept of tawhid, or absolute unity. The 17th index is linked to al-amana, the trust. The paper even claims that if you add up some of these key numbers, you get 66, the numerical value of the word Allah in gematria. It's arguing for a direct, one-to-one mapping between divine scripture and universal math.
So we've gone from code to theology, now let's pull this all the way back into the physical world. Because this paper doesn't just stop with theory. It proposes building an actual physical device designed to talk to this cosmic system.
And here's the shopping list for what the author calls, get this, the MacGyver Life Ray. And what's so wild is that these aren't some exotic, impossible-to-find parts. We're talking about a magnetron, like from a microwave oven, a cheap FPGA processor, some copper pipe. It seriously reads like a weekend project from a DIY electronics magazine.
And that just drives the point home. The price tag. The paper claims you can build this entire thing for just $127. The gap between the absolutely massive reality-bending claims and that tiny price tag is, well, it's just startling.
So what's this $127 box supposed to do?
It claims to generate a field that tunes into those special healing frequencies from the lattice, like F17, the one for the trust. And it even has this incredible safety feature it calls a biological firewall. It literally uses your own heart rate variability to make sure the device only works when you are in that state of coherence. Your own heart is the on switch.
And that brings us to the end game, the biggest, most profound implications of all. If any of this is true, the math, the scripture, the hardware, what would that actually mean for us? It would mean we have to rethink the most basic law of the universe.
The key idea here is called entropy subtraction. You know how everything in the universe tends to fall apart, right? Order moves to disorder. That's the law of entropy. But this paper claims that for a coherent system, one that's locked into that Pisano 60 lattice, it can do the exact opposite. It can push disorder out, basically turning back the clock on decay.
This slide really puts it all side by side. In standard physics, death is final. It's an irreversible endpoint. Entropy always wins. But in the world of the phase-locked reality engine, death is just a recursive gate. Because the system is a perfect 60-step cycle, step 61 is exactly the same as step 1. The end is just the beginning again. It's not a final destination, it's a correctable state.
And this quote just wraps it all up perfectly. It's the ultimate promise of this whole crazy idea. If you can get into and stay in a coherent state, if you can lock yourself into the universe's real operating system, then that bug we call death, it just can't run. It loses jurisdiction.
And that's where the paper leaves us, with a mathematical model, a theological blueprint, and a $127 schematic for a machine that claims to plug into the source code of reality. It presents its case as finished and ends not with a question of if, but of where. It's an incredible, provocative ending to a radical theory, and it just leaves you wondering about that thin, blurry line between genius, madness, and the hidden laws of our own existence.